ladies and gents, and welcome back to another video from the Police Rehabilitation Centre. My name's Mark, I'm one of the rehab therapists, and this video is going to centre around plyometrics. Just before we get going with the content of the video, don't forget, give us a subscribe, give us a like. These things really help to promote our channel. We really want to give you good content that gives you value, helps you with your rehabilitation goals. So the more we get subscribers and likes, the better we can do that, and you'll also get notified of all the videos. So let's get going. Start plyometric training, there's a few things that we need to consider. The most important of which is you need to be pain-free with no inflammation. This is at the top of the list because it's the most important. If you're still getting inflammation and swelling in your injury site or around your surgery sites, then you shouldn't even be considering plyometric training. And also, if you're getting pain with any training that is increasing and lasting more than 24 hours, we need to be mindful of that. We need to make sure that your strength is good, so your injured leg, at least 80% of the uninjured leg, preferably towards 90%. The more symmetry you can get between limbs, the less problems you're likely to have with plyometric training. We need to make sure that you've done some cardiovascular conditioning, so swimming, cycling, cross-trainer, some non-impactive CV works. We've got some good heart and lung training. Certainly if you've been away from doing those sort of things for a period of time after injury or surgery, we need to make sure that we've got a good base level of cardiovascular endurance, and we also need to make sure that you've got decent ankle range of motion and stability. So again, looking at comparing them to the other side is a good way to make sure what is adequate is when you're within that 80-90% of your unaffected limb. We also need to be cautious of high and low BMI. So obviously high increases impact forces, low BMI, you're at more risk of stress fractures with those lower bone density due to those lower BMIs. We need to be mindful of age as well. So people older than 40 are just that cautionary. Do you need to be doing lots of plyometric training? And also if you've got early signs of osteoarthritis within your joints, again, it's something just to be a bit cautious of. It's not you can't do this. It's just one of those things of what are the benefits and what are the potential risks and how we balance them up to each other. So things to consider before plyometric training. So when we come to actually doing the plyometrics themselves, we need to work through from easy through to harder. So as you can see here, we've got a lovely scale that works from easier at the top through to harder at the bottom. The arrows just indicate where we can introduce other things like skipping. So we'll start at the top. So we're going to look at in-place jumps to start with. So in-place jumps, just like we've got on the video here, we're jumping straight up into the air and then landing back down. We can then turn them into tuck jumps, as we've got demonstrated in this video, jumping that little bit higher, pulling those knees a bit closer in towards your chest. So then we look at moving on to more sagittal plane drills. So sagittal plane just means moving forwards. So we've got forward jumps and then forward hops. So again, Nathan's demonstrating these really nicely in the video. Once we've got those forward jumps and forward hops, we can then look at doing some form skipping. So literally just skipping with a rope just to get some form. You don't have to use the rope initially, just to get that repetitive bound. And again, we're looking to get back in towards running. So once we're past that stage, we can then look at things like frontal plane. So this is a bit more side to side movement, and we're looking first at jumps and then progressing them onto hops. Again, nicely demonstrated here on the AstroTurf at Flint House. We can then start to think about introducing jogging or running. Generally in straight lines is where we start with running. But again, this will vary very much on the individual based on their base level of strength, what they want to get back to, and lots of varying factors. So this isn't a be-all and end-all as well. We then progress on to oblique drills, so zigzag jumps and hops. So just like we're demonstrating here, we can go across a line, or we can use something else as a reference point. Again, forwards and backwards, starting off with double legs, then moving on to some single leg jumps and hops. Jumps and hops even. We can then look at reaction drills, so that might be where we get a clap, where someone claps and then someone runs to a certain position. It might be where we have a group of cones which are coloured, and we say yellow cone, red cone, and people are moving a bit more reactionary. So again, that's more return to sport. If you're not looking to return to sport, then that might not be something that you'd introduce at that stage. From there, we'd look on to moving on to more of the transverse plane drills. So this is more where we've got some rotations going on. So we start with 90 degrees jumps initially, and then progressing them onto hops. So you're jumping from one angle, just as demonstrated here, and then turning around, and then increasing them to 180, and even 360 jumps. Again, starting with jumps and then progressing on to single leg hops, looking for good control and good landing. We can also look at more rebounding, so landing, turning, as demonstrated in this video here.
So on the plyometric continuum, box jumps would be our next step to go before we move on to the depth jumps. So as you can see here, demonstrated by Nathan, jumping up nice and tall onto a high box.
Finally, we're looking at depth jumps and hops. So this is where you start on a box, land, and then initially jump off, again dropping from that higher plane. Demonstrated here off a small step with Nathan in the gym, and then off a bigger box just to make it a little bit harder as we work through. So it's a really nice way to then add a jump in afterwards as well. So jump off a box, one jump, then a second jump, and again you go from jumps potentially to then progress them into hops. So there we have it, ladies and gents, really lovely video around how we can progress on through plyometric continuums and make life more challenging when it comes to return to sport. Again, the idea of these exercises is to progress you on to return to sport, so these are later stage rehab exercises, but still things you can do without any gym equipment. So give us a subscribe and a like. Let us know how you've got on in the comments below with introducing these later stage plyometric activities to your return to sport and return to play. As I say, I'll see you again in the next video. Apart from that, take care, ladies and gents.